Dear Ms. Audino, dear Ms. Shish, dear Professor Sinardet, dear Dr. Skora, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great pleasure to welcome you here to the representation of the State of North Rhine-Westphalia to the federal government here in Berlin. Here we present the most populous state of Germany. North Rhine-Westphalia has about 18 million people, and they live right in the center of Europe. Europe is at the very heart of the identity of our state. A few years ago, we amended our state constitution, and we included a reference to Europe and to cross-border cooperation in Article 1. And this reflects the character of our state and the character of its people. In the past 75 years, North Rhine-Westphalia has been the economic powerhouse of Germany on the one hand, and at the same time, a driving force and a supporter of European integration. And this includes strong partnerships on regional level. Cooperation between regions is, in our opinion, an important pillar of the Europe of today. And therefore it is no coincidence that we have chosen Belgium, France, Italy and Poland to discuss European affairs in the wake of the European election on 9th of June. It is because North Rhine-Westphalia has maintained partnerships with regions in all 4 countries I mentioned, strong partnerships and for many years. Partnerships with Flanders, with Hauts-de-France, Piedmont and Silesia. And therefore I'm delighted that we are coming together here this evening. All 4 regions have in common that we are hubs of transformation and of structural change. We face similar challenges and we can learn from each other. Together with Piedmont, we are working on topics such as artificial intelligence and autonomous driving. With Silesia, we share the challenges of structural change in a region that is characterized by its past and of coal mining and others. And with Flanders, we aim at strengthening the circular economy, which will help us to increase competitiveness, the availability of raw materials, and a climate-friendly industrial production. Hauts-de-France has one of the largest tech innovation centers in Europe, the startup incubator Euro Technologies. The startup sector here is in fruitful cooperation with the excellent university landscape. But not only with regard to regional politics, but also on a broader scale, we share challenges and we share also perspectives. And I think these regions, they provide a prism of European integration. In Poland, we have recently seen a return to a pro-European perspective in December. Flanders and the whole of Belgium, by the way, they will face regional and national elections the same day as the European Parliament election, and that makes the political debate even more challenging and interesting. So from Antwerpen to Berlin, from Katowice to Torino, we are looking forward to the European Parliament elections on 9th of June. In this coming legislative period, one of the pressing challenges is the need to consolidate the geopolitical position of the EU and further its competitiveness. Europe is under pressure. The Russian war against Ukraine is also a war against European values. And therefore, it is more necessary than ever before that Europe stands together for our European values. One of the many roots of the European Union, as we know it today, was the cooperation between the German Chancellor Konrad Adenauer from North Rhine-Westphalia and the former President Charles de Gaulle, who was born in Hauts-de-France. We want to continue their legacy. We want to continue this legacy together with our partners in the East, West and South, and together we want to stand for a democratic and open Europe. It is therefore good that we set an example of European friendship here this evening, and I'm looking forward to hearing what issues you are currently debating and dealing with in view of the elections and to the European Parliament. One final note, I would like to take this opportunity to also warmly welcome young adults from the partner regions who have held a workshop here in our premises today. We are particularly looking forward to hearing your views, because your perspectives and your ideas are the future of Europe, and so it's great for us that you're here today. And now, without further ado, I would like to thank everybody for being here. I would like to thank especially the participants of the panel, the speakers, the contributors, everybody who made this evening possible. I now wish you a fruitful discussion, and I hand over to Dr. Sikora for the debate, and I thank you very much for coming here today. Thank you very much.
let's come to the stage. Good evening, everybody. My name is Maria Skóra. I'm Research Associate at the Institute for Europäische Politik, and it will be my great pleasure to moderate this debate tonight. And welcome to all the speakers. Let's have a seat. Today we're meeting in this beautiful building with our dear host, North Rhine-Westphalia, to discuss the European elections, but from the regional perspective. And when Lindsele asked me if I would like to moderate this discussion, I thought like, wow, what a nice idea, what an interesting concept to talk about Europe, the faraway Brussels, from this local perspective. And this is exactly what we will be doing tonight. We will be connecting the regional level with the European level, so we will build this hyperbole from the respective regions that we are hosting today, or that are with us today, to Brussels. We will look for the connections between European politics and policies and the regional politics and policies. We will try to understand those connections and perhaps also look for similarities and differences between the regions and their relationship with Europe. And to do so, we are focusing today on three sister regions of NRW, which is the Silesia, Piedmont, and Flanders. And to do so, we also have wonderful panelists. And I was thinking how to introduce you, and then I thought alphabetical order is the fairest way to introduce people in alphabetical order. So we have Uski Audino, who is a journalist, a regular commentator and contributor to La Stampa and L'Espresso, but you're based here in Berlin, right? Although you come from Piedmont. And is it fair to say that you're a Germany explainer in Italy, because you're also commenting on Germany, writing about Germany, but also about political issues, right? Mm-hmm. Great, wonderful to have you here. Next, in the alphabetical order, Zuzanna Czyż from Poland, Silesia. She's also a journalist, but a TV journalist.
Yes.
Yes, presenter at Aktualnie Śląskie, which I think we can translate as Silesia Now or Silesia Today, right? Contemporary, current affairs.
Silesia Today.
Yes, yeah. Silesia Today. And so she's focused on the current affairs in the region, but also how national politics affects the region, but also how the region can affect the national politics, right? It goes
Correct.
both ways. And last but not least, Dave Sinardet, who is joining us from Antwerp, beautiful Antwerp, Flanders. He's a professor of political science at Vrije Universiteit Brussels and also Université Saint-Louis. He's a writer, commentator, author, focusing on federalism, language politics, nationalism, multi-level politics. So how accurate for Belgium, right? Such a diverse country. Originally, we also had the fourth speaker, who unfortunately cancelled last minute. But, well, unfortunately, we won't have the French voice with us today, but I think we are well equipped for the panel. We cover east, west, south, north of Europe, so let's get to the business, right? And I would like to ask you a warm-up question. The warm-up question, just to set the scene, contextualize, give us a little tour. Can you tell us in a few words about your regions? Can you characterize it? So where is in the country? What's the capital? What's the characteristics? What it's famous for? Uski, maybe we start with you. Okay. Piedmont.
Piedmont. Hi, Maria. Thank you for having me today. I'm a journalist, but I write, so I'm not used to public debate. So I beg your pardon for my errors. So I'm not coming from Piedmont, but I'm writing for La Stampa, which is the biggest Piemontese newspaper. Piedmont is in the northwest of Italy. It's a region very well connected with other countries in Europe, especially with France and with Switzerland and, of course, with Germany. The main city is Turin, and which is a very popular city for its chocolate. I don't know if you know it. It has 3 universities, Politecnico di Torino, University of Turin, and University of Piedmont. And the region has something more than 4 million people. And because of its location, Piedmont has a very high export quota. And because of its tradition in automotive, I don't know if you know about Fiat, but has very, very big automotive sector, and of course machinery sector and vehicle components are also as well very stark.
Okay, so chocolate and cars.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds nice, remember. Good, what about Silesia?
Silesia, such a vast topic. Well, we're based on the south of Poland at the border with Czech Republic and Slovakia, and we are based on coal and steel. I really enjoyed the sentence I heard a few minutes ago, which were like, Silesia is characterized by its past, and I couldn't agree with that more. And now we are looking forward to find new ways, new opportunities for our region, because as I said before, we have a very strong industrial base, but we also made an agreement that we are ready to reduce our carbon footprint. So this is something that we are looking forward. When it comes to our capital, it is Katowice. And Katowice is a great example of city which created a new future for itself, because in the past we had their strong coal mining industry, and right now it is a great example of how a city can change. Right now there is a big business opportunities, IT opportunities, and tourism, because we find a way to turn our industrial past in something very attractive when it comes to touristic matters. Yes, but I also mentioned that we are made of coal and steel, but actually it is a beautiful land, regardless the fact that we have a few problems with land reclamation, because that's just how it is when it comes to heavy industry. It is a beautiful and very green land, and we look forward to be even more green, because we are ready to invest in renewable energy. And what we are known for, Kluski Śląskie, but I don't really know how to translate it.
Klusen. There is something like that in the
English.
West Germany. Klusen.
Yes, I think Kluski Śląskie is a great example. And of course, we have a different ethnic background. We actually are fighting for claiming the Silesian ethnic minority. And we are fighting for claiming different Silesian language. So that makes us very diverse when it comes to culture.
Thank you so much. Yeah, Silesia is a very special part of Poland, definitely worth visiting. Thank you very much, Susanna. And last but not least, Dave, what can you tell us about Flanders?
Well, first of all, thanks very much for the invitation and for the organization of this very interesting event, or what promises to be at least an interesting event. For me, quite unique also to be the only man in such a panel, so we can add that to the list of balances in the panel that we were already mentioning. So that's quite nice. Yes, Flanders. Well, maybe I should first explain a little about Belgian federalism, to explain to you what the place of Flanders is exactly within Belgium. Because what's important to know, first of all, is that we have quite a specific type of federalism. Because like in Germany, of course, here you have Länder. In Switzerland, there's cantons. In Canada, there's provinces, etc. But in Belgium, we have created two types of federated entities which overlap. We have 3 regions and we have 3 communities. The 3 regions are based on territory. The 3 communities are based on persons, on culture. And Flanders is actually as well a region as a community. So we have 3 regions, Flanders, Wallonia, Brussels. And we have 3 communities, the Flemish, the Francophone, and the German-speaking community. Now, what has happened is that the Flemish region and the Flemish community, which are constitutionally 2 different entities, have merged under one parliament and one government, which means that it was also this way much easier for Flanders to really have its own identity more in general. Because in the south of the country, for instance, the Walloon region and the French-speaking community are much more, are not, or have their own parliament and their own region, so they also, are more distinctive from each other. So Flanders is the region and the community. There's not so much difference because the region of Flanders consists of some 6.5 million people. And the community, that's the same 6.5 million people, but also the Flemish people living in Brussels, which are considered to be about 10%, even though I think you cannot really say that Brussels today is just a sum of Flemish and Francophones, but okay. So that's another, let's say, 100,000, a bit more Flemish people in Brussels. So that's the region and the community. Now, the capital of Flanders is also Brussels. That was decided some 40 years ago, in 1984. That created also controversy because the Francophones in Belgium were unhappy with Flanders, the Flemish parliament deciding that Brussels, the city, not the region, would be the capital. They tried to stop that before the Constitutional Court. That didn't work out. So what did they do? They decided that Brussels would also be the capital of the French-speaking community. So Brussels is now as well the capital of Belgium, also more or less the capital of Europe, also the capital of Flanders, and also the capital of the French-speaking community of Belgium. I don't know if you're still following, but nevertheless, the largest city in Flanders, and actually also administratively the largest city in Belgium, is Antwerp, where I live. Antwerp is also the economic, let's say, main driving force in Flanders, especially with the port of Antwerp, which is the second largest port in Europe. Maybe one last word about economics. Initially in the 19th century, Flanders was a very rural region, was also a very poor region. The wealth mostly came from the south of the country, more industrialized Wallonia. But since the 1960s, this has switched, and the largest part of GDP is now produced in Flanders and much less in the south of the country. I think this will suffice as introduction, I guess. Yeah.
That was the best introduction to Belgium and Flanders I've ever heard. Thank you so much. So I hope you now can follow and understand better what regions we will be talking about. And
I always say, if you think you understand Belgian federalism, that means you don't understand Belgian federalism, and it probably hasn't been well explained to you. So if you don't understand, I'm happy because then I explained it correctly.
Yeah, remember there's reception afterwards, so we can always, you know whom to address. Okay, so we have Silesia, we have Piedmont, we have Flanders in the beautiful context of North Rhine-Westphalia. And I would like to come to talking politics right now, because the reason why we're meeting today is to talk about European elections. But before we talk about the European elections, let's see what are actually the debates, or what is actually the political atmosphere in the countries and in the regions while approaching that ballot on June 9th. So my question would be, what are the topics now in your countries debated at the national level, And how do they correspond with the debates you have at the regional level? Are there any nuances? Are there any differences between what you, let's say, hear on the main channel of public TV and what you hear in the local media? And I'm looking at Susanna right now, and I would like to start with Poland, because Poland is right now in a very hot week straight after regional elections. So
Yes,
a lot
yes.
is going on, and also regional elections, so it was voted in the regions. So what people talk about in Poland and what people talk about in Silesia.
I would like to point out one thing before we go further, because we are talking about Silesia in this conversation, but actually in matter of administration, we're talking about Województwo Śląskie, and I'm just mentioning about this because some people might have a problem with that. Like Silesia is a historical land, okay, and now we're talking about Województwo Śląskie. When it comes to politics in Poland and in Silesia, and I guess that's explaining all of it. It's a mess. Just trust me, it's a mess. But last week we had local elections in Poland, and the previous leading party, which is Law and Justice, gain about 30% of votes, and that's a lot. But they are probably not going to create a coalition, so the power stays in the civic platform party, which is led by Donald Tusk and the party and coalition. When it comes to Silesia, after those local elections, we now know that the bigger part of our Województwo Śląskie government will be also led by Platforma Obywatelska, not by Law and Justice, which is now in the opposition in Poland. So that's one thing. What is now being discussed in Poland and in Silesia? I will first tell about what is going about in Silesia, environmental concerns and air pollution, because as I mentioned before, Silesia is known for high levels of air pollution, largely due to the concentration of heavy industry. So politicians debate right now what to do with that. Also economic development and job creation, because due to the fact that we all agreed on the reducing the carbon footprint and closing coal mining facilities, that means that we have to, create new job opportunities for people. Also, the very important thing in Silesia, in Województwo Śląskie, is regional identity and autonomy. As a region with very big cultural identity and history, there are debates about the level of autonomy that Województwo Śląskie should have and whether it should have it at all. And as I mentioned before, also claiming Silesian language and ethnic minority in Silesia is pretty important. And of course, we need to, first of all, debate it in the Warsaw, whether we're going to be claimed as ethnical minority with its own language or not. So that's it when it comes to Silesia. And about politics overall in Poland, you know what, it's really messy right now, because currently the civic platform led by Donald Tusk is trying to, I don't know how to put it in words, rozliczyć.
Make accountable.
Make accountable, yes, I was looking for that word. Make Law and Justice Party accountable for what it was doing for the past years. And that's a lot. Yes,
indeed. Also, Poland is right now in an election marathon, right? It just had parliamentary elections in October, now regional elections, European elections, presidential elections next May. So it's a really hot not only temperature-wise, but also the debates are very heated. Thank you very much, Susanna. And I'm moving to Belgium because Belgium is also facing elections soon, also election marathon, but anecdotal evidence. I was very often in Brussels this year, and each time I went to Brussels, there were farmers' protests. And I saw farmers' protests here in Germany and in Poland, but those in Brussels were the most turbulent, I would say, with burning barricades and so on. So what is it one of the topics in Brussels, in Belgium and in Flanders, or are there also other burning issues?
Well, yes, it's certainly one of the topics, and yeah, of course, since a lot of farmers come from the entire European Union to Brussels to protest against European agriculture policy, we have indeed more protests in Brussels than in other parts of the EU also. But indeed, also specifically for the Flemish government, which is now ending its legislature, the issue of agriculture has probably been one of the most conflictuous issues, even before the main farmer protests started, because that's mostly in recent months that this has gained traction. One of the main issues that has poisoned the life of the Flemish government is the nitrogen issue. So, and that's of course also very closely linked to EU policy, since Flanders had to diminish its emissions of nitrogen to be in phase with the European demands. And since Flanders since agriculture and industry are two of the main important economical sectors in Flanders, but also two of the main sectors that are responsible for emission of nitrogen, this was quite important. And this led to tensions within the coalition, a coalition of Flemish nationalists, Christian Democrats and Liberals, especially because the Christian Democrats in Flanders have always been very closely linked to the farmers' unions. This was actually, the farmers' union was actually one of the three classical main components of the Christian Democrats. And so they really came into collision with the two other parties because they didn't want, they tried to limit the strengthening of the rules on nitrogen emission. And actually the Flemish government almost fell over this, which is the first time in its history that it came so close to falling. During the legislature, 3 times an agreement was reached on this nitrogen issue, and 3 times it was put into question afterwards again. And now they've voted recently new measures, but already the Christian Democrats and others are saying, yeah, we're just doing this because we have elections soon and to have something, but actually this is going to come back on the table for the next government. So this is one of the main conflictuous issues, and of course the more general farmer protests make it even more topical and contentious. I should also add probably, because indeed in Poland there is an election marathon. In Belgium we don't really have election marathons since we just organize all the elections on the same day. So the 9th of June we will have obviously the European elections as in the other member states of the European Union, but we will also have the federal elections and the regional elections. And then on the 13th of October, we'll also have provincial and local elections. So in a few months, we will be re-electing every possible parliament and council in Belgium. And there are many of them. And also recomposing every government. So this is quite an important political year in Belgium and also in Flanders, and it's also very stressful years for the political parties because the divisions of power between these parties will be redetermined for the next 5 to 6 years at all levels. Yeah.
This is like accumulation of elections in Belgium, right? 2024 is actually the year with where it's being voted all over the world, I think. there is a record number of ballots and elections happening, and maybe Belgium is contributing to this record number with this accumulation. So thank you very much. This is very informative to know what's going on there. And how about Italy and Piedmont?
So in Piedmont, it's going to be as well double elections on the regional level and on the European level as well. But in Italy now a very hot debate currently is about the health public system. Because there is a huge hot debate between central state and the regions about financing. The government is going to cut 1 billion euro, and the region claim for this money because they depend on it. And they are threatening the central government to discuss this question before the Constitutional Court. So it's very big thing, and I think it's also very much felt from the citizenship because of months-long wait list in order to get treatments, in order to get procedures and appointments. So the healthcare is something really close to us, and it has been also rallies for public health. So this is a very important topic in the Italian debate at the moment. And another big topic is the financing of the state. Of course, yesterday it was voted and approved the document of financing for 2024. And they forecast an increase GDP of 1%. So this is a good news, I would say. But at the same time, the debt it will be increased, and this is not good news. So, and the opposition say that we don't know yet the details, the numbers. So. I think it's a moment of chaos because there is a document, but it's not precise enough to forecast what's going on in the future. So those are the main topics we're discussing on in Italy.
Okay. So it's actually interesting because each region has their own concerns and the topics that are driving the public debate. So once we know what the political situation or the atmosphere is in the countries, I'd like to move closer to Europe now and ask you the following question. What is the view on European affairs in your respective regions? How do people perceive the EU membership? How do people appreciate being that the Italy, Poland, Belgium are EU member states? Is it felt at the regional level that there are benefits of being part of this European family? Is it perceived positively or negatively? What's the relationship between long story short, what's the relationship between your regions and the European Union? And I'll start with Belgium because Belgium is right now holding the presidency in the EU. So is there a sense of empowerment? It's actually important position to set the agenda, what's being discussed, decided in the EU this year, this half a year or not. Mm-hmm. How is it? How is this Flanders-EU relationship? Although it's not far, right? Brussels is not. It's part of Flanders, as we've learned.
I mean, it's even the capital,
exactly.
as I mentioned. Yeah, no, indeed, Belgium is now until the end of June holding the presidency of the European Council, and Flanders, the Flemish government also has an important role to play in this because. And then I come to another specificity of Belgian federalism. We have a principle in Belgium which is called in foro interno, in foro pro externo, which means that if you are competent for a certain issue within Belgium, you are also competent for the European and international dimensions of this competence. And some other regions in other federal countries are quite jealous of this position, because this permits the regions and the communities in Belgium, and therefore also Flanders, to have quite a role on the European and international stage. So, for instance, translated to the current European presidency of Belgium, Flanders is presiding over a number of councils. For instance, fishery, culture, media, youth, and industry are competences where Flanders actually presides. And for a number of other issues, Flanders is also present around the table, because there the Belgian position is determined in collaboration, in cooperation between the different regions. So on a lot of topics, also in normal times, let's say on agriculture, agriculture has been largely regionalized within Belgium. So on the Council of Ministers of Agriculture at the European level, the Belgian representative will rotate between the different regions, and this representative will only be able to take a position if there is a consensus among the different regional ministers of agriculture in Belgium. So in that sense, there is an important role to be played by the federated entities at the European level. Actually, on the 18th of April, so that's in a week, in Antwerp, the Flemish Minister-President Jan Jambon will host a meeting with representatives from, I think, some 20 different European regions to discuss the role of regions in European decision-making, and also maybe to plead for a more active role. So certainly now that the Flemish government is led by a Flemish nationalist party, of course, they are also taking advantage of this Belgian presidency to put forward this more, let's say, autonomous agenda within the European framework. More largely, because your question also concerned, of course, the population. Well, Belgium has always been one of the most pro-European countries. There has for a long time been a pro-European consensus at the political level, largely translated also into the population, in the sense that there were much less anti-European feelings than in some other European countries. However, you can't really say, I think, that unfortunately, maybe, that the European presidency is something that, or the Belgian presidency of the European Council is something that lives very strongly among people in the streets. And even though we host in Brussels the European institutions, even for a lot of people in Flanders, Brussels still seems to be in the perception quite far away.
Okay, thank you. So close, so far. Wow. That's so close and so far, like what you say. Interesting. Uski, how is it with the Piemontese and Brussels and the EU?
So, I would like to do a premise. Italian people were a lot pro-Europe in the 90s. And of course, at the beginning of the 2000 years. Then Italians discovered that Europe implies also regulations, implies rules, implies a lot of things. They are not really prepared to go on. And that's why it came a second phase very anti-European when we also talk about going out of Europe. Some parties wanted it. But now, I think in the last 2 years with the war in Ukraine, Europe show again its role. So I think now we are start getting pro-European again. This is what concerns Italy in general. Piedmont has always been a European region because it is in the center of Europe. As I said before, as I mentioned before, our neighbors are France, Switzerland. We have a very good connection with Germany. So Piedmont has never had a doubt about it, about its collocation. But I would like to say something else. In order to prepare this panel discussion, I spoke with a very good friend of mine, which is a spokesperson for Confindustria, which is the Italian BDI, or MEDEF. And I asked him what Piedmont wants from Europe. And he said, we want that Europe play the role of Europe, meaning Europe should check and balance the interests of all the countries and of all the regions. And the European institution should provide to political intermediation. And I think this is quite important things. We should not only represent interests, but also represent a collective interest, a European interest.
All right, thank you very much. That sounds really good. And Susanna, what about Silesia and Europe? I mean, Poland has been in a clash with the European Union and frozen money, rule of law. And Silesia is, as you mentioned, an industrial region. So how does it look at the European Green Deal? How would you crack this question?
Well, first of all, I wish I could say that my country is once again pro-Europe, because for the past months, if not years, it was exactly the opposite. However, Silesia may have a relative positive view for European Union. However, there still is some political tension in recent years, particularly around issues related to mining and environmental protection, because European Union, as was mentioned before, implies rules and conditions, and one of those conditions was the fact that we need to, well, just cut the carbon footprint, right? And in the land which was relying on coal mining for years, if not decades, if not hundreds of years, it's something really difficult. And we also need to remember that Polish society is still pretty much conservative. So any change is a challenge. But as I mentioned before, I think that generally the region may have a relatively positive view on European Union, and I hope it's going to stay that way.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Poles are known to be...
we are divided in that matter.
We are divided, yes. Polish society is divided, but I think the opinion polls say that in general people are very happy with the EU, but when it comes to the nuances...
Especially we're happy with EU funds for development projects, so...
Yeah, money does the talking. Okay, so we know now the relationship with the EU, and have the EP campaign already started in your respective countries and the regions? I was for Easter's in Italy, in Milan, so it's Lombardy, so not Piedmont, but yeah, the city as well. And I saw only 2 parties already having their posters out. This was Forza Italia, Presidente Berlusconi, and Fratelli d'Italia. Who is dead? Yes, I was like, is he running? All right, let's see. No, he cannot. But this was interesting, but I haven't seen any other campaigns Have they started in already in Europe, in your countries, or not yet? Yeah, you just grab a microphone and you can answer. So in Italy, we know it's like Pi mal Daumen, like it started or not yet?
Yes, it has started, but issues are only domestic ones.
Okay.
And we are mainly debating about candidates, about political alliances, party scandals. So it's not really interesting. We are not speaking about European issues yet.
Not yet.
I hope it will come.
Okay, and how is it in Belgium?
Well, even worse, I would say, since, as I explained, we have coinciding regional, federal, and European elections. So all the attention goes to the national elections, the regional and the federal ones. I think it's a pity. I've already pleaded a few times to organize the European elections separately, so that there could be more attention for the actual European elections, and they wouldn't be overshadowed by the regional and federal elections. However, as the case of Italy and probably also other countries in Europe shows, this is maybe a necessary condition, but not a sufficient condition to have a real debate on EU policies, since even in countries where you have separate EU elections, they are often still also more about national politics. But at least not organizing it together could maybe create a context where we would talk a bit more about the EU, which is, I think, very necessary. I also see an important responsibility of the media here, who, according to me, also fail in their task to inform people about the decisions taken at the European level in general, but also in Belgium. Even though, again, Brussels is so close, you don't always have that impression when you watch the Flemish or Francophone television news.
Okay. So, just to follow up, so the media reporting is actually differs depending on the Flemish or Wallonian, or?
Oh yes, but that's a completely different story. Also, actually, I did my PhD on the role of the media in federalism in Belgium and the image that Flemish media give a francophone part of the country and vice versa. But that's maybe another issue. Mm-hmm. Probably one thing that they are unfortunately similar in is their lack of sufficient attention for EU politics. But I think that on that level they are also quite similar to most of the other media in Europe, for as much as I know. But we did that. But it is another specificity of Belgium. That is that our media landscape is indeed totally separate. The Flemish public broadcaster and the Francophone public broadcaster may still house in one building, but they are two totally different organizations which almost don't collaborate.
That's interesting, but that's also a perfect bridge to you, Susanna, because media has been already, and TV has already been mentioned. So what about Poland? The campaign couldn't really start because of the regional elections, right? But
I believe that the idea of European elections is something that lives among the people, but not because of the campaign that has started, but because of the fact that European issues were used as a tool during local elections. So that's why people know that something like that even exists, but I'm not sure whether it's gonna be seen on the level of participation in European elections, unfortunately. I want to believe in that, but I'm not so sure.
Okay, so just to wrap up this part, so what are the topics, or will be the topics? What topics you think might come up in this campaign? I think I share your reflection that the European campaign is often dominated by the domestic policies, like an extension of the national competition. Nevertheless, next to competition, there has to be also some substantial debate. So what do you think, what your anticipation is? What will it be? What will be the topics? Susanna.
Well, when it comes to Silesia, people of Silesia, as I mentioned at the beginning of our discussion, at least some of them are looking forward to claiming their language and ethnic minority. So that might be something that they will look for in their representatives for the European Parliament. Maybe they would like to have someone who will speak in their native language, for example. But also, I'm sure that environmental concerns are an important topic that will be bringing up many times during this campaign, and economic development, such as.
Okay, thank you. Uski?
I really don't know what topic is going to be important in the future. I know what topic should be debated. I think that now two fronts are facing each other. On the one hand, there are parties who want more Europe, federal Europe. And on the other side, there are parties who want less Europe. For example, in Italy, Prime Minister Meloni is chief of a party who wants less Europe. She is together with PiS, for example. And on the other side, there are other parties, like Social Democrats, and they want more Europe. They want to move on toward a federal union. So I think this is a topic which should be tackled before the elections.
Okay.
But I don't know. Maybe they will speak about klein politics for all the campaign.
Well, looking forward to checking out what will be going on in Italy. And how about Belgium? Or will it be two narratives for two language communities? Or do you think there would be like topics that would be common for the country or for the region?
Well, one topic which will be different in the north and the south of the country will be the topic of migration and diversity and integration. That's a topic that's discussed much more in Flanders than in the south of the country. Also because Flanders has a very strong radical right party, which already had some 18% in the 2019 elections, but which in the polls is going up until 25 to even close to 30% now. And of course, immigration, integration are topics that are mostly put forward by that party. But since it's an influential party, of course, these topics are often dealt with. And also studies show that migration is also a topic that is more of concern among Flemish voters than among Walloon voters. It's not that they find it totally unimportant, but there is a difference in importance given to it. Now maybe one last thing about the European elections. I think that actually probably they will have a stronger impact maybe in the south of the country than in Flanders, because also you should know that Belgium has almost no federal parties, another specificity of Belgian federalism. We only have one party represented in parliament that's actually organized nationally. All the other parties are either Flemish or Francophone. So we have two of each. We have two Liberal parties, Socialist Party, Christian Democrat parties, etc. And also for the European elections, we have two separate colleges. So Flemish people vote for different parties and candidates than Francophones. And in the Francophone part of the country, there will be some interest for the European electoral contest, because there will be two former prime ministers of Belgium which will be confronting each other. So Elio Di Rupo, product of Italian immigration in Belgium, former prime minister for the Parti Socialiste is heading the list, but also Sophie Wilmès for the Francophone Liberals, who was prime minister during the COVID period. Now, in Flanders, we don't really have such strong or important personnel. Of course, we also have interesting personalities, but yeah, not such popular figures. So I think that that will attract more attention in the south because of these two strong figures.
The more you talk about Belgian federalism and this dichotomy, the more fascinating it gets. So thank you. But
I could go on all evening, but I won't do that to you. No.
Don't give me ideas. But great. But so we know where we're standing and what's happening in the regions and the countries almost 2 months, actually 2 months before the elections. But it's about time to look into the future. And in this part of our discussion, we will talk about the expectations and possible outcomes of the elections. And you, my dear speakers, have a moment of pause now. You can have some water and recharge for the second half, because this event today is not only trans-regional, but also, I'd say, transgenerational. Earlier today, we also had a group of, there was a group here of young people coming from North Rhine-Westphalia, Silesia, Piedmont, and Hauts-de-France. And they were talking about their expectations and discussing their expectations regarding the elections. And so I would like to invite their representatives now on the stage. I know there's 2 of you, so please come. Don't be scared. Yes. Round of applause. You can use this, or can I steal your microphones for a moment? Okay. Come. You can take the mics. Can I steal your microphone? All right. Thank you. Come. Thank you so much for taking this role. So my question is the following. Would you please introduce yourselves, tell us where you're from, and summarize briefly what were you doing today? What were the discussions about? What conclusions you came to?
Good afternoon. I'm Noemi Lumaka. I'm a law student, and I'm from Turin in Piedmont.
I'm coming from Germany. I'm also studying.
Okay, so what was happening today? Tell us. You met with other folks from 4 countries, and what did you talk about?
So today we got a workshop for the European election, and we took a look at the issues that, from the EU. And we found out that the issues create a problem, and a problem of mental health. So we talk about that, and we found out that a lot of people are afraid of the issues, the crisis we have in our regions. So we have to face that problem, and we suggest to provide more programs and services for mental health, and make them more accessible. We want to outline the topic, so it's not a taboo topic. We have to make people who have problems with this, make them coming to get the provide help. And we want to invest on prevention, because prevention for that is better than doing the situation too late. That was at first looking at the issues we have and the thing we got there. And after that, we thought about, is the EU finished now? And how can we finish the EU? And one thing is that we want that the EU is adapt, because we are one union. We work together, we speak together, and not every country has the same currency. And we don't think why. Sure, so it would be very much easier if we have all the same currency. That was one thing, and also transportation system. We all are students. We travel a lot, mostly with railways, and we want to have more transnational railways to come better from between the countries. And we want to have a better system, like a ticket system. Maybe we can enhance a common ticket system for the European countries. And on top of that, we talked about universities and university evaluation system, because, as I said, we are studying, and sometimes you have bureaucratic problems in exchange years, so you did something and it is not worth anymore, or when you did a degree in another country, we want to face that problem.
But how can we face the problem of mental health or our diploma recognition in another country where we can't even live an effortless life as students? It's usually hard to afford rent, or the access to student accommodation is done based on criteria that are not harmonized in all Europe, and not even speaking about buying a house as a young person. For that we need actions, because how does all that impact mental health? It's one more burden to put on students and young people. But to do all this, we need young people to care about the EU, to know that they can seek help in the EU. And the only way to do that is to raise awareness on what the EU does, what's the role, and how is it great for young people. And if the question is, why is it not already like that? The answer is because there is, as a young person perspective, a lack of communication and transparency from the EU. It's true, everything is public, streamed, published, but how can we access that if we don't know what to look for? In this moment, we would need a hub or a center with all the informations that redirect you towards what you really need, what you're looking for. But why to use a tool if you're not interested? The tool would be useless. And how do we raise interest? Again, education, school. School will play and have to play a huge role with their curricula and their teaching on the EU role. So the key remain education for us, because young people want to feel the spirit of the Union as a community where we solve problems, we are successful, we are one, and talking about European elections, where we vote conscious of how important it is to be a community and to act as one in everything.
I love that. Not only very concrete ideas and your expectations, but also this spirit. But a follow-up question is, since you come from 4 countries, right? Germany, France, Poland, and Italy. Were there differences? Have you encountered differences of opinions or expectations, or were there issues that you all absolutely agreed upon during our conversations?
I think there in a lot of very important topics we've got common ideas, so like climate change, stuff like this. It's very common, but there are still different ways of dealing with problems. For example, when we stay there, it's a different opinion from new renewables. For example, we in Germany, we don't like atomic energy, and some other countries enhance that. But we have. But we found out that in general we have the main basic ideas. So we see very similar, not to say the same, but very similar issues that we have to face. It's more like how can we face that? But it's clear that it's not the same, because we are very different countries. So there are some, but the basic ideas are the same, I would say. What do you say?
I do agree, and there are some issues where we found literally the same common ground as the student housing one. It's a huge issue, and whoever went through an Erasmus program or a broad internship know the struggle to not only on the economic side, but also to look for that place and actually stay. So there are some issues where the concerns were shared, but the possible solutions were different, and others where it was just a common issue from top to bottom.
Okay, thank you so much for coming up and explaining what you were talking to. I think if young people were designing those EP campaigns, they would be so full of facts and so rich. Thank you so much. Let's give him a...
Thanks to
yes?
you.
Thank you too.
Yeah. Hey, let's give him a warm applause. Thank you for the mics back. And I'm back to my seat. And yes, so we've landed in June. On June, it's not in all countries, the elections is one day. But let's say we're in June 2024. And let's talk about the EU elections now and what will happen afterwards. So actually, the prediction is that there will be a significant shift to the right. Right-wing parties, especially the populist right-wing parties, are gaining traction in many countries. Center-left and Green parties will most probably lose votes. Anti-European populists are likely to top the polls in member states like France, like Italy, or come second, like here in Germany, for example, Poland, and many others. So it's very possible that the current grand coalition or the super grand coalition of the Liberals, Social Democrats and Christian Democrats won't be possible to continue. There will be a different composition of the European Parliament. So my question now to the three of you, what are the predictions in your countries regarding this, this ballot in 2 months? How it will roll out? Dave, would you want to start? What is the...
well, maybe I would like just to react to what has been said also by the two representatives of the youth.
Yes.
And because actually Belgium has maybe taken an initiative to bring European politics closer to young people, in the sense that we have granted voting rights. It's more nuanced, I'll explain in a moment, but for 16 and 17-year-olds for the European elections specifically. And actually it's not only the right to vote for these elections, it's even the obligation to vote for the European elections, since Belgium has a system of obligatory vote in general. So everybody is obliged to go voting. Belgium is one of the only European countries still having that, together with Luxembourg. Now, initially the idea was to only give the right to vote to the 16 and 17-year-olds and the obligation for the rest. And that was to be predicted. The Constitutional Court said, no, that's not okay. That's you're not really argumenting why you organize such a distinction. And so only a few weeks ago, young people of 16 and 17 years suddenly heard that they were going to be obliged to go and vote for the European elections. And I personally think it's a good thing, because this is a way, I think, to stimulate young people to indeed interest themselves in European politics. It's also a way to stimulate schools, but also civil society, youth organizations to organize events, to organize more information on European politics directed to young people. Okay, I'm not naive about it. I'm not thinking that suddenly everyone will be more interested in European politics, but I think it's small steps in the good direction. So that's what I just wanted to say about that. And then on the outcome of the election, well, what you were describing as probable outcome for Europe as a whole is probably also true for at least Flanders. Again, not for Wallonia, because Francophone Belgium is one of the only parts of Europe where there is no strong radical right party. Very often Francophone journalists or French-speaking Belgians that I talk to, they come to me and they say, oh, please explain to us what is happening in Flanders. How is it possible that the radical right is so strong? We don't understand. And then I generally say, well, it's just what's happening in the rest of Europe. What we should actually try to explain is why this is not happening in French-speaking Belgium. That's the exception. So, but in Flanders, indeed, probably the radical right, as I said, is going to rise even further, may probably become the biggest party. And one of the main questions for after the 9th of June is more about the Flemish regional level, where there could be a majority between Vlaams Belang, the radical right Flemish nationalists, and N-VA, the center-right Flemish nationalists. And then the question is, might they form a coalition together, which would mean that for the first time in Belgium, or at least in Flanders, the radical right would come into power. That's one of the main issues that's discussed concerning the coalition formation after the 9th of June. Personally, I don't think for the moment that it is very probable that this is going to happen, because they need a majority in seats that is comfortable enough, not just one seat left over. I mean, they need 3 or 4 seats minimum on top of the majority. And yeah, that seems quite difficult to reach. And also, if the N-VA would form a coalition with the radical right on the Flemish level, probably they will be excluded from coalition discussions on the federal level, because the Francophone parties, given that they are not used to having a radical right party, they are much more strongly against it. They have what we call a cordon sanitaire and even a cordon médiatique. So in French-speaking media in Belgium, radical right representatives are not allowed to speak. They don't get the floor. So totally different again than in Flanders. So an N-VA that would ally themselves with such a radical right party would probably also be excluded from federal government coalition formation.
Okay, that was intense. Thank you, but very informative. Susanna, what do you think will happen in Poland?
Well, let's imagine for a second the division of power, current division of power in Polish government. Well, the obvious observation is that there is a more liberal way of voting in Poland. But at the same time, we can see that the growing popularity in Poland of Eurosceptic parties. So I'm really curious about how it's gonna look like in June, because for now I really have no idea how it's gonna turn out. Because after many years, a more liberal way of thinking, liberal beliefs won in Poland, but I don't know how it's gonna if it's gonna affect the European elections. Personally, I wish it would. But once again, there might be some skepticism towards European among certain people.
Okay. And Oski, how do you think it's going to roll out in Italy?
Okay. I just read the poll.
Okay.
So
informed opinion, very good. Database.
So the party of the Prime Minister Meloni is the first party at the moment. So it's probably going to win. The second one is the Social Democrats PD. The third one is the Five Stars movement. And what is going on at the moment is that there is a switch in the right hemisphere. So Forza Italia is has more voters, not als, than Lega from Vice Prime Minister Salvini. So at the moment, I would say the polls confirms the actual situation that we have in Italy. So it will be not a surprise from the elections. But I would like to add something to what the student says before about the rail infrastructure, the European rail infrastructure. Because in Piedmont we have a problem about it. As I said, this is a region which is very good connected with others, but it depends on transport infrastructures. And at the moment, there are 3 big routes, communication routes, which are under constructions. The Turin-Lyon high-speed rail, Fréjus tunnel is sporadic upgraded, and Mont Blanc tunnel, which should be repaired. And the problem here is, it's transportation a country problem or a European problem? And I think, related to what he said, that it should be a European problem. But as we said, with the example of Turin-Lyon railway, we had, at the beginning, Italy was blocking the construction works. Now is France blocking the construction works. So who decides? We really need a political level in decision.
Yes, thank you so much. Are there questions in the audience? Because if there are, I can spare my last question and make floor for your questions. And if not, I actually wanted you, you were faster than my questions because I actually wanted to ask you, hearing from what you've heard from the group of young people that were discussing today, what are your expectations and what do you think are the challenges ahead of the new legislative period after the European elections? What should be tackled? What will be the what are the issues that will be on the plate of the new European Commissions? If there are any issues that will be inherited from the von der Leyen Commission, and yeah, do you see any parallels with what you've heard before? Or would you add more on what is expected of the new Commission, to which issues are to be tackled? Zuzanna, let's start.
Well, I would like to focus on Silesian point of view, because if we took an overall Polish point of view, then of course migration, support towards Ukraine, healthcare. But if we focus on Silesia and what we are looking forward when it comes to the European elections, then perhaps the most important fact is that the candidates will be expected to address how they are going to support coal mining industry, how they are going to support heavy industry, even also while transitioning towards something more sustainable in Silesia, because we also know that renewable energy is something obviously important, and I believe that no one in Silesia believes otherwise. But we need representatives who will represent our point of view and the fact that coal mining industry still needs support, because those are job losses, those are families, and we need European Union to support us in this. That's Silesian point of view, of course.
Thank you. Uski, you already mentioned the transportation system. Is there anything else?
Yes, of course.
Yes, of course. What would you expect the next Commission to do?
So, one topic we heard about it a lot of times is the massive bureaucracy obligation that comes from Europe. We usually hear that European bureaucracy is like a monster. I don't agree with that, I should say. I think the problem is that we have at least 4 administrative levels: the municipal one, the regional one, the national one, and on top of that, the European bureaucracy. So the problem is the harmonization of those levels. It's not a problem of European itself. I spoke with the CEO of an important German energy company, and he showed me a flowchart of bureaucratic obligation his company has to meet. And it was a labyrinth. It was really a nightmare. And he had dedicated an entire department to oversee those obligations. So maybe it's time to, to sit around a table and discuss between among the different administrative level, not only the European one. This is one topic. And the other topic, which is closely related to this, is about digital market. Now we have problems with the digital market because we have 27 different laws and regulations about data protections. And of course, it could be no market could exist with 27 different regulations. So maybe countries should sit around the table and decide just only one regulation for everybody. So I think there is a lot to do.
So generally you expect that they make our life easier, just like with chargers for mobile phones,
Otherwise, it has no sense here.
Okay. And Dave, you have the last word. What are the, let's say, 3 challenges that you want the new Commission to solve?
Well, first of all, I'm afraid that the current geopolitical and international security situation will probably demand a lot of attention in the next years, also from the next European Commission, and it will probably be an important challenge to remain or to find enough unity around these issues, so I think that that's quite important. Then, of course, there's also what we saw in recent years. We saw a European Commission with very high climate ambitions, but which seemed to have diminished a bit towards the end of the legislature. So also there, probably a new form of balance has to be found. And well, maybe it is important, even though maybe it's not the time to really be busy too much with the own institutions and the own functioning. Maybe we should have also, again, a more fundamental debate about the future of the European Union. And maybe we should try to find ways to create more of an actual European political debate. And one of the proposals that I have been supporting also for a number of years would be to elect part of the MEPs through transnational lists, through a European constituency where candidates would be the same in the entire European Union. I think that could contribute to maybe solving some of the problems that we've mentioned earlier in the discussion. The fact that, if already there is some interest for European elections, it's very strongly nationally oriented or regionally oriented. I think we need more of an actual European debate, a form of European public sphere, as Jürgen Habermas called it. So I think it would be good to take some steps in that direction. And there is there's strong support within the European Parliament for this kind of proposal, but unfortunately the heads of states of different member countries are not yet in the same state of mind.
And that's a perfect conclusion, I think, for this discussion. Susanna, Uski, Dave, thank you so much for this exciting conversation. Thank you to Jan and Naomi for contributing to it and sharing with us what you were saying. Thank you for the representation of North Rhine-Westphalia to the Federation for hosting this evening debate. Please remember to go vote on June 9th and do your civic duty. And now I think it's time to exchange in a less formal setting outside. Am I announcing the right the right thing to do? Thank you so much. And let's continue in a less formal setting at the reception.
Thank you.
Family photo, machen wir.
Family photo.